Hello there and welcome back to another video. Today we have Atlas versus Thor. So, let's get into this. Intelligence. This goes to Atlas. No question. Again, Thor's been regarded as a big idiot. And I think compared to most characters, he's probably on the lower scale in terms of intelligence. He's definitely not on the upper end, or even in the middle for that matter. Fighting ability and battle IQ. Now, this is actually a good category because people will say, well, Thor killed all the giants. And that is a very good point because it shows a lot of his fighting ability. And as I said before in the Jormungandr video, Atlas was a commander of the Titans. Right? He was the commander, he was the leader. And not to mention, from what we understand, he is the most powerful of the Titans too. So, if we're talking strictly fighting ability, that would go to Thor. But if we're talking battle IQ, I think that goes to Atlas. Again, Atlas fought in the Great War, which I believe lasted like 100 years or whatever. Right? Which, Thor, from what we understand, Thor is fairly young. Thor is not, like, we don't really know how old the gods are, which, I mean, kind of does make it a bit harder to decide as to how much experience they have. But Atlas has been around for a long time. I'm going to say, overall, if we incorporate fighting ability and battle IQ together, I'm actually going to give this one a tie. Thor is by far the better fighter, but I think people have made this argument too, is that when Thor fights, he doesn't think. He just does. He predominantly relies on instincts. Which, yeah, you could say, you could say that's a facet of battle IQ. Sure. But he has no strategy whatsoever, and that's the main point of battle IQ, is to how tactical you are. Like, what strategies will you use? How do you approach a combat situation? Thor is literally just go in there and start swinging. Atlas, again, being a general for the Titans, you could imagine it's a little bit more than that, right? He's got some strategy that he has. Strength. Now, this is probably the toughest category because the thing is that, and I've made this distinction before in other videos with Thor. Thor is physically the strongest Aesir god, no question. However, being able to send Jormungandr back in time, yes, it can be an expression of his strength, sure, but is it like the best thing to use? In my opinion, no, because at the end of the day, as far as strength goes in terms of how much force can you exert, not how hard you can hit things. That's AP or destructive or DC, which is destructive capabilities, right? In terms of overall strength, I think it's either it. I know people might argue with me on this one. People might say it's Thor, and I could definitely understand as to why that might be the case. But personally, at this point, Atlas in the God of War universe is around or slightly weaker than Hercules, because they said Hercules held the world better than Atlas did. And Hercules is lifting strength. I mean, again, and this is another thing. Within the God of War universe, Atlas isn't just holding up the world. He's holding up the mortal realms. He's holding up, Earth, Thanatos' realm, I think Nyx's realm of infinite darkness, and the underworld, as well as Olympus. So anything within the Greek world that exists, that means other universes and whatnot, are also being held up by Atlas. That, I honestly, in terms of strength, I'd have to give a slight edge to Atlas just for that reason alone. Thor is strong, yes. But from what we have seen, he's just hits really hard, and it's because he's got Mjolnir. Right? In terms of overall, like, force generation, in terms of how much force can Thor actually output without the use of Mjolnir, that's a different question. Speed will go to Thor, no question. Durability goes to Atlas, no question. Thor's speed is pretty, like, Thor can move really quickly, especially with Mjolnir. Even without Mjolnir, he's actually a relatively agile god, considering his size, right? Atlas doesn't really seem to have that sort of speed. Durability, as I mentioned before in the Jormungandr video, it required 2 Olympians to really take Atlas down. Thor is in and around the big 3 level, for sure, but Thor seems to be easily phased by like just normal punches and kicks and stuff like that. I mean, sure, the Leviathan axe and whatnot, but when you consider what Atlas had to take on Hades' Soul Rip and Poseidon's Lightning Storm. So he had to take on like two of the main abilities that the big three can throw at him. Their most powerful abilities. I don't think Thor can take a lot, but from what we've seen, Thor doesn't have that level of durability. And then vulnerability. I will give an edge to Thor because he does have armor. Again, Atlas is barely is exposed. Energy projection AP, that would entirely, I think, go to Thor on that. Thor's AP is definitely, I think, beyond that of Atlas. Atlas's AP is great. I mean, compared to the Titans, he's definitely the best. And even compared to most of the gods, even I would say, in terms of AP, it's probably above Hades, but maybe not above Poseidon or Zeus, just because of their elemental nature and power and godhood. But outside of that, yeah, I think Thor's got that. Versatility, it also goes to Thor. Now, the X Factor and the hacks. Let's see, what do we have? 4 for Atlas and 5 for Thor. So this is really what I think it comes down to. Could an attack from Thor kill Atlas? It very well could. I think it could. It could do a lot of damage. And Thor has experience fighting giant individuals. So this fight might not be much different from the giants that he had. And he's also fought against, Starkather, which I believe was the commander or the general for the giants. So he's already fought against someone with multiple limbs and appendages, but also is a general for the opposition, pretty much, right? It's just that experience is definitely going to come into play here. Atlas doesn't have that. And Atlas, I think, is very limited in terms of abilities. And again, I would say Thor's lightning isn't quite to the extent that Poseidon and Thor can use it. Because again, Thor's a younger god, compared to them, relatively speaking. And therefore, his ability, the way he uses the lightning, is not where, I don't think anywhere even close to how Poseidon and Zeus can use it. But even outside of that, I think the X Factor goes to Thor. And that's because this is a fight that Thor knows all too well, and he will win. I think Thor will definitely win this fight, no question. At the end of the day, it really comes down to the really thing that makes the difference is the energy projection, the AP, and of course the previous experience. That's really what makes Thor win this fight, right? Atlas never really had to deal with, and I'm pretty sure there might be arguments for Atlas getting the X Factor, but as far as I'm aware of, I don't think there's really anything that Atlas can use. Thor, again, has fought this battle many times. So, I think in the end, Thor's going to win this. So that's really the video. I hope you enjoyed this. Please leave me insight in the comment section below. I hope you have a great rest of your day. And stay tuned for more.